Miss, I think you have a problem with your connection.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, okay. I think it's lagging.
It's lagging.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Sorry about that.
It's okay, no problem. It's
Hi,
because of
how
the
are you?
connection issue.
Hi, how are you? It's a great honor.
Please, guys, don't unmute yourself because you have to raise your hand first and take the permission before you talk here. Okay, Miss Kiara, can you please introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, my name is Kira. I'm an IELTS instructor in Vancouver, Canada.
Yes.
Thank you for having me here to talk with all of you.
It's our honor. Thank you very much. Miss, let us go to the topic itself, which is IELTS. Okay, do you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Yes. Do you think that if I have an IELTS exam, I'm sorry, do you hear me? I'm sorry.
Now I
Yes.
can, yeah.
Yes, yes, okay. So before we start, I want you to tell me what is IELTS exam?
Yeah, so IELTS is an English language proficiency test. So
Yes.
students or people wanting to immigrate to an English-speaking country, they have to take this test in order to prove their English level.
Okay. Do you think if I'm a native speaker or I'm not a native speaker, is it different when I get this exam? For example, if I'm a native speaker, so can I get band 8? But if I'm non-native speaker, I take, for example, 7 or 6 or 5.
Yeah, so the test will always be easier for native speakers. There's a bigger challenge for non-native speakers, but non-native speakers are still able to score 9s as long as they have that level of English proficiency. And there are native speakers who can score lower as well. Actually, the average for native speakers is 7.
7.
Yes.
So when a non-native speaker gets 7, so he or she should be happy.
7 is a very high score. Yes, absolutely.
So why do you think native speaker got this mark like 7? 7, it's something like, wow, I'm shocked. Why do native speakers get 7?
Because 9 means you're an expert in the language. And in order to be an expert at anything, that means you've had to study it for many years. So actually a 9 is an incredibly high score. So anyone who gets that should be very, very proud of themselves.
Okay, so let me tell you something, Mas. You are a so beautiful one. You are a so beautiful girl. So why don't you turn on your camera?
Oh, because it's very hot here. I have 2 fans blowing on me right now, but thank you.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so what makes the IELTS exam difficult to people?
Yeah, so just the fact that in order to get a good score, like I said, 7 is native level. And a lot of students need 6.5, so almost native level. And for immigration purposes, sometimes they need up to an 8. So these are incredibly high scores if you're expected to perform at the level or higher than a native speaker.
So what are your suggestions for this to have a higher level or a higher band in IELTS exam?
Yeah, so definitely, I always suggest coaching. IELTS coaching is always a very good idea. And then lots and lots of practice and studying. Absolutely.
Yes, you mean studying with an expert or self-study?
So I always suggest an expert, but sometimes that's not always feasible for everybody. So if somebody is only interested in self-study, what's really important for them is to choose the right materials to use to study. There are a lot of materials out there for the IELTS that are just not very good. So it's important that students are choosing the best possible materials.
So now you are talking about the materials. So now we as non-native speakers and we are as students, there are a lot of materials on the internet, on Google and so on. So how can I choose the right material? How can I choose the best books I study from?
Yeah, definitely be going to IELTS experts. For example, IELTS Liz, myself, IELTS Advantage. So these experts have blogs, they have their Instagram, they have their YouTube, where they're giving real information and good information. But there are a lot of blogs out there which would be considered clickbait. They actually only want to entice you with free materials and free resources, which are actually not quite good. They're actually quite bad. So just make sure that whatever materials you're using, they're coming from an IELTS expert or Pearson or Cambridge or something like that.
Yes. So if I have a book like from books from Cambridge or Oxford books, is this help me to get a high score in exam or in this IELTS exam?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Cambridge is excellent. They actually created the exam, so their resources will be very helpful. The only thing
Yes.
is you're not getting that feedback. So definitely with listening and reading, self-study is totally possible. But when it comes to speaking and writing, if you're not getting that feedback, it's really hard to know what you're doing wrong.
Oh, okay. So maybe I write well, but I don't know where's my mistake. So this will not be helpful to study alone. You mean that I need someone to monitor me and say, this is wrong. You have to change this. Don't say this word like that. Please change these words and so on. You mean this? This is what I got from your point of view.
Yeah, so let's say you've taken the IELTS test and you're scoring 9 on the listening and 9 on the reading, but when it comes to the speaking and the writing, you can't get over a 5 or a 6, which is a common problem for people. If this is happening, then it's really important for you to invest in that expert feedback so you know how to improve.
So, teacher Kira, what do you think this exam is so challenging? What makes it so challenging to students?
Because a lot of students, they focus more on input rather than output. So they can listen and they can read, but when it comes to writing and speaking, they haven't really had as much of an opportunity to do so. So they really struggle.
Yes.
Also, a lot of people don't quite understand what the test is looking for. The IELTS is very particular. So there's a very particular way you should go about the speaking test and the writing test.
Okay, and sometimes if you are a non-native speaker, you can understand what is said to you, but sometimes you can't produce and you can't say what is going in your mind.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
sorry, continue.
yes, that's what I want to say, that sometimes you understand what is your teacher telling you or what is said, but you can't you can't get it out. You can't say blah blah blah. You can't express your feelings. You can't express your ideas, and this is a very big problem we have already in Middle East.
Yeah, so the fluency aspect. So the only way a student can, gain fluency is by speaking. So if they're not having that chance to speak, they're never going to gain speaking fluency, unfortunately. So it's just something that takes time and practice, but mostly a lot of time.
A lot of time. So how can we improve speaking skills? Now I have to speak, I have to talk to people, but I don't even met native speakers a lot. So how can I improve my speaking skills?
Yeah, so
what are your recommendations?
Yeah, there's a big misconception that in order to improve your speaking, it has to be done with a native speaker, which isn't true. Students can improve their speaking by getting speaking partners or coaches that are in their country as well. They don't need a native coach in order to improve their English. They can have a teacher from the Middle East who speaks with them, and they can get speaking practice that way.
Yes, you know that here in our world we have a lot of WhatsApp groups, Telegram groups, and they are trying to practice speaking together, but they are not specialists in that. So, do you recommend this, that I can join people who are not experts and they are not native speakers, and we speak together so that we can get fluency? Do you recommend this way?
Yeah, if it's just speaking practice, absolutely. If it's for IELTS practice, definitely not. But if the person just wants to practice their speaking, I always recommend working on fluency first, and accuracy will come with time. So definitely these WhatsApp groups I think are great for building fluency.
Yes. So I think you said that we have to. We can join speaking groups and so on, and to join others to speak, and this is by time will make us good speakers, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So what about pronunciation?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things people can do. What I recommend is shadowing. So maybe if you have a favorite show or a favorite YouTuber or a favorite content creator on TikTok or Instagram, what you should try and practice to do is shadow them. Listen to them speak and then reproduce the sounds that they made, but by yourself. It's very good to practice this way.
Okay, so now there are some people who are British native speakers, and some people are following American native speakers. So now, what if I follow these people and these people? I follow people who are British and people who are American. So is this make confusion to me?
So the pronunciation is quite a bit different, but
Yes.
unless you're a very, very impressive high-level English learner, you're going to have your own accent. So don't worry about British accent or American accent, because, chances are you're going to have your own nationality's accent. So it doesn't matter who you're practicing from, British, English, Irish, Iranian. It's all helpful.
Oh, okay. So sometimes, or in some countries, they don't say a letter in a good way. Like I will say a word for you and you will understand what I mean. When I say that or that, then this is in English. In some countries, they don't say like this. They say that, then, that. They don't say the. Okay, is this, can we consider this a mistake in pronunciation, or it's according to their accents?
Yeah, it's just to their accent. Some languages don't produce sounds that other languages do. So in order for a learner to create those sounds, it's just not possible for them, or maybe it is, but I think students have to worry about fluency and accuracy over creating these perfect American English or British English sounds, because there are native speakers of the language who pronounce this like dis or think like tink. It's fine. As long as you're being easily understood, you don't have to produce every sound perfectly.
Okay, so if I'm in a speaking IELTS exam or test, are there any words that I have to avoid, or I can use whatever words I know, especially in speaking exams? I'm not talking about writing, I'm talking about speaking now.
Yeah, so what you need to be doing is you need to be using informal language, which is really difficult for a lot of people because in school, people learn academic English. So when it comes to the speaking exam, they struggle because they don't know how to use that idiomatic spoken language. So they often score a lot lower than they expect.
Okay, so I have to memorize some idioms, you mean?
Yeah, memorize them. Well, you want to be using them correctly. You don't want to throw in random idioms because that looks
Yes.
forced, and there's a good chance that you're going to be using them incorrectly. So what you need to be doing is practicing idioms, phrasal verbs, and collocations as much as possible.
Okay, so what about writing exam? You said that in the writing exam, it's also very difficult to students. So what are your recommendations for writing tests?
Yeah, so the writing is probably the most difficult section of the exam. It's where people score the lowest, absolutely. And every student I've ever had, this is their biggest struggle. So my recommendation is the time pressure is what gets students the most, because you have to write 2 tasks in 1 hour. It's actually quite a lot. So students really need to learn how to manage their time in order to overcome this huge test.
Okay, so what if in the writing exam I use informal language?
Yeah,
Is this makes my marks low?
sometimes it's appropriate. For example, if you're doing the general training test, so task 1, there's a chance you could get an informal letter. So if you use informal language, this will actually improve your mark. However, during the academic test, if you use informal language, it's not appropriate during academic writing to use informal language. So it's not going to improve your mark. It's going to lessen your score.
Oh, okay, so I have to, when I study vocabulary, I should know if this word is formal or informal, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's really important to distinguish between formal and informal language. So when we're learning English, we're kind of learning 2 different languages, spoken English and written English.
So how can I learn in these 2 parts, spoken and written? what sources or what resources I can use to learn these uh, spoken language and written.
Yeah, so there are a lot of great books out there for collocations and idioms and phrasal verbs, and this is what would be considered spoken English or idiomatic language. And then written English, this is the English that, most people learn throughout school. These are the academic verbs, the one-word verbs, also using the passive voice, more technical grammatical structures. So the same books you would always use, you're going to use for academic English. But for
Yes,
spoken English,
yes,
yeah, sorry, go on.
yes. No, I'm hearing.
But for spoken English, the resources are going to be, the sources you're using are going to be a little bit different because this isn't what you're learning in school. But watching movies can really help, listening to music, watching YouTube videos, and again, getting those books that are specifically for collocations, idioms, and phrasal verbs.
Okay, so I got the point that if I want to learn written English, so I use books. If I want to learn spoken English, I go to movies and films and so on, and songs. Is this right?
Yeah, pretty much. You're gonna find a lot more, written English in books, of course, and then you're gonna find a lot more spoken English where people speak rather than write. So films and music and things like this.
Yes. So, dear teacher, how can I expand my case of vocabulary? I need to have a lot of words in my mind. Is it only by memorizing words, or should I write them in sentences? Should I say these words in front of the mirror? What do you recommend to study words or vocabulary?
Yeah, vocabulary, incredibly important for the IELTS test because there's so much paraphrasing. So for each section of the test, you're gonna need to have a huge vocabulary in order to do well. What I like my students to do is to have 3 different notebooks, one for idioms, one for collocations, and one for phrasal verbs. I have them record any new vocabulary that they learn with a sentence about themselves and their lives so that they can remember it. And then we practice them as much as possible.
Okay. Now, teacher, according to the pandemic, I see that some of the tests in some countries, they make computer-based tests, but in some countries it's face-to-face until now. So is there a difference between a computer-based test and the face-to-face test?
Yeah, so computer-based and paper-based tests do have some differences. Essentially, it's the same test, but how you go about completing the test is different. I personally prefer the written test, but if somebody has poor handwriting skills or poor spelling, perhaps the computer-based test would be better. So it just all depends on the person. Some people prefer computer-based, some people prefer paper-based.
Okay, but it's okay if you have computer-based tests. It's like the face-to-face, the same. No difference between the two ways.
Yeah, exactly. So essentially it is the same test. Yeah.
I thought that it's easier to have a computer-based test.
For some people it is, definitely.
Okay, so teacher, we have here some questions. Let me read it for you, okay? Someone, Ms. Sahar, is welcoming you from Palestine.
Oh, thank you.
Nurhan, she said, what other exams are equally important to IELTS?
Equally as important as the IELTS test?
Yes.
Okay, so that just depends on what your purpose is. If your purpose is Canadian immigration, there's another exam called CELPIP, which can be taken in its place.
Yes, she wrote here, if I'm not thinking of traveling. She's not thinking of traveling. It should just need a similar indicator of my level.
Okay.
She just want to know her level in English. Is that a purpose of taking exams or tests like IELTS or TOEFL and so on?
It is, but keep in mind that this test is very expensive. So if all you want to do is get like an indication of what your level is, I would just get a mock test. A lot of experts provide mock tests, and then you could find out your English level that way. It's not an official score, but it's better not to waste your money on the test unless you are actually requiring it for something.
Okay, Miss Mervat said, can you discuss about the 4 parts of IELTS and what is the most difficult part that anyone can't have good marks? I think we discussed this, but you can summarize the question for her, please, Miss.
Yeah, so 4 parts, listening, reading, writing, and speaking. The most difficult is the writing for sure. And then the second most difficult is the speaking. And that's because a lot of students, their input is better than their output. So they just don't have the experience with speaking and writing like they do with listening and reading.
Yes. Is there a difference between listening and academic exam or general exam?
No, there isn't. So they are the same. The listening and the speaking tests are the same for both general and academic.
Good. Okay, thank you. There are many steps that have to be followed writing. Can you mention them? She's asking about the steps that she has to follow when she has a writing exam.
Yeah,
Do you
for sure.
recommend any steps?
Yeah, absolutely. First thing you want to do is you want to analyze the task question. So
Yes.
25% of your score for the writing test is your ability to correctly answer the question. So it's not even about your English skill, it's about your ability to critically think and answer the question that is given to you. So what you want to really do is analyze what the question is asking and come up with good ideas. So you want to analyze and then you want to plan. This will take about 3 minutes for the task 1 and 5 minutes for task 2. Then you want to write. Most of your time is spent on writing to answer the questions. And then at the very end, you're going to leave some time to revise, to make sure that there aren't any spelling mistakes or grammatical errors, to ensure that you've answered all parts of the question.
Okay, teacher, do you know that in schools, when they teach students, they make something like a plan first. They ask the students to read the exam or to read the test, then to make a plan. After that, they can use the ideas they wrote already in their plan to form their writing itself. So is this way a correct way to plan first and to write? As I see some students say, no, I will write first, then I will pick some words and ideas from my writing to fill my plan diagram. Is this a correct way?
Definitely is such a good idea. I recommend to spend, for the task 1, 3 minutes planning, and for task 2, 5 to 8 minutes planning. It will definitely help you for sure. Planning is key.
Yes, some students make it different. They first write. After writing, they pick ideas and put in the plan. This is what I,
Too funny.
yes, I see. Um, Mr. Hussein asking you, is TOEFL is equal to IELTS?
It depends. I think TOEFL is used in the United States quite a bit.
Yes.
But here in Canada, IELTS is much more popular than TOEFL.
Okay. A good question from Sahar. She is asking, how could I prevent myself from thinking in native language when speaking English?
Yeah, so this you to fluency.
Yes.
So the more you speak, the more automatic thinking in English becomes. So try and ensure that you're speaking as much as possible.
Yes. Yes. So they can practice English even at their home. They can speak to their family members, colleagues in work, and so on. But sometimes some people feel shy to do this.
Yeah, it can be discouraging to speak in another language. It can be scary. If you're still too shy to speak with others, start by speaking to yourself. As crazy as that sounds, it does help. And the more you form these sentences, even if you're alone, the easier it will become.
Yes, Mr. Ahmed from Egypt, he said, what about APTIS in capital letters? What about APTIS?
Yeah, so I'm not familiar with this test.
Sorry?
I'm not familiar with this.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Kasham from Morocco is what is the most important part of the test IELTS? Yes, I think he's asking about why from Algeria. Yes, sorry, I'm sorry, Mr. Kasham. Yes, um, he's asking about the importance of tests, IELTS tests.
The IELTS is like important for different reasons. It's just depending on what you're needing to take the test for,
Yes.
whether it be for immigration or for studying. For each person, it's different, and the scores that people require are different as well.
Teacher, do you think that pronunciation affects the results of the exam test?
Yeah, so 25,
IELTS, sorry.
yeah, 25% of your speaking score is pronunciation. So absolutely, it does have an impact.
Okay, so what about accent?
Accent, no, there's no bearing on your score due to accent. If you are clear and easily understood, you are going to score high with or without an accent.
Yes, so I think my accent is is good to be understood, right?
Yeah, exactly. You have a perfectly clear accent. You would have no problem with your accent for the test.
Yes, I know that. I see that when you talk, when you speak, I see that your words are easy to be understood. Also, I can understand even every single word you say. So why do you have this? Why are you um, so when I hear you, I can or listen to you, I can understand you.
Um, because you have very good listening skills.
No. I think there is something related to you because I'm watching your videos and so on. So I see that you're I can understand whatever you say.
Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. Um, I have a Canadian accent,
Yes.
so I guess we enunciate all of our words very clearly. So maybe that's why.
Okay, because you are so beautiful, and you are talking slowly. Also, your words are very clear. I think because you are a teacher, makes you have this way that anyone in the class can understand you. This is what I got.
Yeah, so I do speak more slowly when I'm speaking to my students. But at this moment, I'm speaking to other teachers. So I'm using my normal speed, my normal pronunciation. So good. I'm glad you can all understand me. That means you have a high level of English, and that's great.
Yes, whenever I hear you or I listen to any or watch any video to you, I really understand what are you saying. Okay, so I don't know the name, but it's Viva or Vivi, I don't know. Could you tell me, please, the necessary band required in IELTS to grasp the illegal immigration to Canada?
Yeah, so I'm not an immigration agent, but
Yes,
from my experience, most of my students need a 7.5 on the
yes,
IELTS test.
yes, that's it. Yes, you are right. Yes, so here I see that Dr. Atia is raising his hand. Um, can can he ask you, please?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yes, Dr. Atia.
Uh, Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Ms. Kira. I'd like to add a note and ask a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay, our colleague who asked about the aptness test. It's the aptness test. It's a kind of proficiency test, okay? It's conducted by Cambridge, okay? It's similar to the PET exam. And that test, we check students' level of reading, writing, listening, and speaking, but it's not of a high level.
Okay.
So it's apts test, okay? This is just a point to answer the question of our colleague who asked it. I think his name is Ahmed, maybe. And my question is, are there any questions in the IELTS reading you recommend to avoid as they are considered a waste of time?
So the questions which are the most difficult are the matching headings.
Yes,
So
okay.
if you struggle with the reading, definitely save matching headings for last. And then, if you have time in the end, then go ahead and work on those. But definitely much more challenging. So save them for last.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that we used to do the right thing, because when we were teaching IELTS to our students at some universities, we recommended to keep that question to the end. If they still have time, they can think about it. If they don't, because for some students, it's a waste of time, and time runs quickly, and they will be shocked that they have no time to answer the rest of the questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Okay, thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Miss. There is a question. It's not related to IELTS, but it's related to teaching. What modern strategies do you recommend for us to use in order to be creative?
Yeah, so incorporate as much listening and speaking as possible. I always suggest save reading for homework. You don't need to be reading with your students in the class. Same with writing. Of course, go through them, the tips and the techniques and how to plan. But when it comes to classroom time, save that time for listening and for speaking.
Okay, teacher, can one acquire nativity? I think if yes, what level one has to reach to say that he is native or like native. I think he means how can I say about myself that I'm quite like a native and
Yeah.
speaking. I mean, I think, or pronunciation. I don't know.
So very possible. If you're going by IELTS test standards, you just need a 7. If you're going by your own personal standards, there's no real, like, I can't quantify it. What's a native? Is it your, like you said, your accent is indistinguishable from a native speaker's, or is it, you have complete fluency and you're able to think in English? So if you're going by the test, if you score a 7, then technically you're at native level.
So, Miss Kira, I got the point. It's not according to my accent. It's not according to my a little bit about my pronunciation, but it's not according to accent. It's according to my fluency. This is the point I get.
Exactly. Because if you think about it, there's hundreds of different native accents. So just because somebody has an accent doesn't mean they're not at a native standard or level. So you can have your own accent and still be at a native standard of English or native level.
I see some teachers from or people from Pakistan or India. They have special accents, but they still creative and they can speak more fluent than people who are have good accents.
Yeah, exactly. So, a lot of Indian people have grown up their whole entire lives speaking English, so they can be perfectly fluent in English. And a good friend of mine, he's from India, and he considers himself a native English speaker, yet he still has that Indian accent. So yeah, it's completely fine to have an accent, absolutely.
Yeah. Yes, so you recommend to be fluent more than concerning on having a native speaker accent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just personal preference. There's no need for anyone ever to have a native accent. But if you feel like that's something that you really want to achieve, that's fine. But there's no necessity there.
You know, teacher, now this idea will make some people like feel more confident because I don't have a problem now. I don't care about accent. When only I care about fluent and I talk to people in English, I have this ability to talk. So it's better than having accent. This will make many people feel like free or like more confident in learning English.
Good. It should. Awesome.
Miss Noor from Iraq. She has a question said, what is better? But we already answered this question, but I will read it. What is better accent that I can speak in any country? In any country. She means if she goes to any country. Which one is more understandable in all countries? Is it British or American? I think any accent, but what about you, Miss Kira?
Yeah, so go ahead with your own accent and you will still be understood. Just work on, if there are times with your pronunciation when people have trouble understanding you, try and adjust that. But when it comes to adopting a certain accent, I don't think that's necessary.
Good. Yes. Miss, I don't know from where, but someone asking about audiobooks. Do you recommend any audiobooks?
Like based on IELTS or just in general?
I think it's in general because I think now we are talking generally about English.
Yeah, so I actually have a book club. If everybody would like to get my Facebook link to that, they can join my book club, and I have some recommendations about books on
Yeah.
there.
Yes, I got your rush emails. Thank you. Miss, there is someone, Mr. Ammar, he wants to ask you, he wants to explain his point of view. Please, can you raise your hand, please, Mr. Ammar, so that I can unmute you? Yes. Hi, Mr.
Hello,
Ammar. Hello, how
yes,
are you? Mr. Ammar, can you tell me
I'm
where
fine.
you're from?
Yeah, my point is that at first I
Mr.
would like
Ammar,
to thank
Mr.
you for
Ammar,
lecture.
I want you to introduce yourself to Miss Kira. Where are you from?
I'm from Iraq. I'm an MA degree student. I'm studying a linguistics in Iraq in Al Basra University. My question or my point is that I think that you have missed my point is that I I asked about the nativity. How can one acquire nativity, and is nativity able to be acquired? Because I have once been told by a native speaker or an English teacher that nativity cannot be acquired because as Arab, our muscles and our tongues exercised on the Arabic letters. So when we come to understand or to speak the English language, we cannot do so because the muscles of our articulatory organs have not taken the way of speaking English language. But my point is that I find or I see people from Arabic countries who speak like native speakers, and sometimes I miss or differentiate between them from the native speakers. So is nativity acquired or not? This is my point. It's not about the degree of nativity. And also the second point in my question is that to what level I have to work, what level I have to reach to say that I'm native speaker or not?
Yeah, so like I said before, like I can't really quantify like what is a native speaker. I personally have a band 9 in IELTS, but there are other native speakers who have maybe a 7. So how do you quantify what is a native speaker? Is it absolutely perfect pronunciation? Because if so, that'll take a lot of time for you to acquire that type of skill in English. But when it comes to grammar, I'm sure your grammar is better than many English speakers based on your qualifications. So I don't know why you feel the need to have nativity. I don't think it's very I don't think it's important, but like you said, there are many amazing YouTube people who are Arabic, YouTube content creators who are Arabic, and they're indistinguishable from native speakers. So it is possible, yes.
Okay, so now, Miss, the last question with Mr. Muhammad. I think he's from Egypt. Mahmoud, sorry. Mr. Mahmoud, do you have a question? You are raising your hand, maybe by mistake. It's okay. Miss, can I ask you a question? I have two questions. What or who do you recommend to study with? A native speaker or non-native speaker?
It doesn't matter. It all depends on the teacher. There are amazing non-native teachers and there are amazing native teachers.
But I recommend that we study with you.
Yeah, no. So honestly, it doesn't matter whether the teacher is native or non-native. There are benefits to both. It just really depends on the individual teacher and what they offer.
Okay, they don't know you, and Miss Kira is more beautiful than the picture she is putting her in her photo. Here, you see, we see your photo. You are more beautiful than this. You know that?
Well, thank you so much.
You are really beautiful, mashallah. Okay, Miss Kira, I have a question. Have you ever, anyone asked you this question before? Would you like to study Arabic?
Yeah, I would like to study Arabic. But you know, just as Arabic people have troubles with English pronunciation, I have troubles with Arabic pronunciation. So those glottal sounds that you make in the back of your throat, it's very, very hard for me.
Yes. Did you have this deal before that anyone can help you in Arabic and you help her or him in English? Do you have this deal before?
No, I never have, because in order for me to do that, it would have to be an Arabic teacher, right? Or else it can't be just someone who speaks Arabic, as you know, just because somebody speaks the language doesn't mean they are, teachers, right? So it would have to be an Arabic teacher for me to do that.
Yes, right. Good. Yes, a good point of view, because this is you summarized what I would like to say, that maybe you would like to study English and you go to a native speaker. He is not a teacher, so how can he or she teach you?
Exactly. They have no understanding of grammatical rules, pronunciation rules. They have no idea. So yeah, exactly. You can't just go to somebody because they're native. Maybe for speaking practice, that's fine. But when it comes to actually learning the English language, a teacher needs to be certified.
Yes, good. Yes, thank you very much. But before we leave, I will put a link for the attendees now. I want you please to put a comment for Miss Kiera, please. Here is Mr. Hassan Ahmed put the link. Please go to this link and put a comment to Miss or Teacher Kiera, and I will screenshot and send you this feedback. Okay?
Awesome.
Okay, so anyone wants to write with just a few minutes to join this link and write whatever you want for mascara, and later on I will send you more details about mascara, because they don't know you, but inshallah I will put some links for them so that they can join your rush email. Sorry for this.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yes, now I want to read what did they wrote for you. I will join. It's already on FP. That is the first thank you. Someone is writing. Yes, I'm waiting for you to write for mascara. We don't want to waste her time. I think you have work for mascara.
Yes, I do.
You are so nice. Thank you, Miss. Someone, Mrs. Abir said, we are happy to join you. I'm so happy to be with you. We are all happy.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you guys. Thank you. And thank you so much for being such a lovely host and asking such great questions.
Thank you very much. Really, I appreciate you, and this was a very, very, very fruitful session to us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sure it's a nighttime where you guys are, so I hope you all have a wonderful night.
And you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. Okay, now you can write. I'm waiting for your comments on the Facebook. Okay, so now I will not end the meeting until I see your opinion in